All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. You now arrived in my train of thought. It's time to talk about the power rankings. And for this week, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Heisman Trophy finalists. And I can actually put a candidate at each train station, and in the order of which I would vote for them if I had votes for the Heisman Trophy. And this week, I'm going to start with Julian Love, who I think will finish fourth. And I'm not trying to knock him. I think he's the most ready for the NFL amongst these four guys. I think he's going to be really good once he gets to the pros. But I think he's going to finish fourth in this Heisman Trophy race. And he's going to start in the Fulton, Kentucky Zombie tier. New York Giants, on the clock. Honestly, the Giants won by not doing anything at all. They were able to relax and rest and avoid humiliation for a week. And while that was happening, a lot of the bad teams either won or lost tiebreakers to them. So with all that in mind, the Giants were able to move up to number one in the draft so far. Can they keep that premium position where they could either trade the pick and get more stuff or just draft more quality players? We'll see. Las Vegas made bettors mad. The hilarious ending to the game where Denver was favored by 8.5 and were up by 10 at the very end, only for the Raiders to get a couple breaks and then settle for a field goal, is absolutely hilarious. And it's got a lot of conspiracy theorists and Dave Portnoy very upset, and also some other bettors who had money on this game for obvious reasons. Vegas took their natural loss, sure, but we're not worried about that. People are just worried about their money. And the Raiders probably cost a good amount of people a bunch of it. Arizona escalated quickly. Yeah, this game was a beatdown. Don't worry, nobody saw it. Nobody's really worried about it. I mean, Kyler Murray's out for the year, sure. Jacoby Brissett's been efficient with the Arizona offense. Okay, fine, understood. But they ran into a way better team in the Rams, who were very, very angry after the loss they took to Carolina last week. And they took their anger out on the Cardinals and basically used them as a punching bag. Don't worry, again, nobody saw it. We were all watching the Packers and Bears. New York Jets, 15 straight years. That is their playoff drought. They have missed the last 15 playoffs. It is the longest streak in sports. You're getting closer and closer to the Buffalo Bills 17-year mark, where it took the miracle that was the Tyler Boyd play in Baltimore, which I would like to think that some people in that city maybe still haven't forgiven John Harbaugh for such a failure. Anyway, the Jets are at 15 now, and could they get a quarterback? Sure. Do they need a quarterback? Most definitely. Will they ruin said quarterback they end up with next year? Probably. That's just the New York Jet way. The only thing redeemable about this game for the Jets, honestly, aside from the really good special teams, is their end zones. Their end zones look good. Everything else about those uniforms, not really all that great. Cleveland, Garrett has 20. He's got 4 weeks to get 3 sacks. In theory, Garrett will be able to do that. He's got 20 sacks now, obviously, leading the league and getting closer and closer to the inevitable and what should be unanimous Defensive Player of the Year award that he shall win. Shedeur was actually really good on Sunday. He played really well. I don't know what Kevin Stefanski was thinking on the 2-point conversion, but Shedeur Sanders actually played a tremendous game. Yes, it was the Titans. Understood. But it's baby steps. And in time, Shedeur may have great games against actual teams. We will see. Speaking of Tennessee, you're next. Won, but lost. Going into the week, Tennessee actually had the number 1 overall pick in place yet again. Now, obviously, they didn't need to take a quarterback this year because I think Cam Boyd has promised. You just need to build an actual NFL roster around him. I would go with an offensive lineman to try to protect Cam Boyd, or a potential game-changing defensive end like Reese from Ohio State. That would be quite nice. But the point is, they need some help in some way, shape, form, and fashion. Instead, Tennessee ended up winning the game and not really helping themselves when it comes to the draft. They don't need a quarterback. Okay, fine. They only fell to 4. Okay, understood. They can still get their edge rusher or offensive lineman, whichever one they choose. It just means they don't have the control of the draft anymore. That belongs to the Giants, as I mentioned previously. Gaining ground on everyone fast in this realm, Washington. Disastrous season continues. Can I just shut down Jaden Daniels, please? I don't want to see him get hurt anymore. I don't want to see that shoulder get popped out of place or see if he's disjointed or double jointed even. I don't want to see that anymore. Just shut this man down and let Mariota carry this out because it's just not worth it. It's not worth seeing him take all these beatings and all this unnecessary punishment. Just let him heal up for the season. And for a lot of the Commanders, I would prefer that this happen because there's just nothing happening here. I don't know where that beatdown came from Minnesota, but the fact that you were the victims of it is not a good look. And New Orleans, looking somewhat better. I gotta give the Saints credit. They have looked way better recently. And they've looked more so like the Saints that would give teams a fight and just run out of steam at the end. Obviously, against Tampa Bay, this did not happen because Tyler Shough is playing decent football. Good on his part. Now, I would still draft the quarterback of the future if I'm New Orleans. I think not doing so would be a huge mistake. But at least Tyler Shough looks respectable. And that is all you can really ask for on a team that's so underdeveloped as a roster. Not bad, though. Good division win. Either way, you're going to have beaten the division champion, but whether it's Carolina or Tampa Bay this season. So I will give y'all credit for that. And both of those wins were on the road, too. So that also deserves some credit. Good job, New Orleans, and not looking like complete trash. So we're going to get back to the Commanders here in the zombie tier games of interest. First, them and the Giants. Now, the Commanders have looked awful recently on this long losing streak. They've looked painfully bad. And one would argue that now is not the time to look to get a win here because of the draft positioning. For another loss and continuous losses would probably help you get towards an edge rusher or anybody that can protect Jaden Daniels. Something like that. Me personally, I would probably go with the edge rusher part because you need defensive help in the worst way possible and young defensive help in the worst way possible. As for the Giants, all right, Jackson Dart gets to play another home game. Hopefully he doesn't get his brains beat in. Let's not see that. And that really good defensive line against the Commanders' O-line. That could be interesting. If said Giants D-line can't get home, I am concerned about their secondary against Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel. That could be a potential problem, and one of which I would imagine could be exploited. This will be a game that will probably be attended by about 3,000 people, and every ticket will probably cost like $40. We will see. Eagles and Raiders. Now, this is more so about the Eagles and somewhat about the Raiders because the Raiders are terrible. And obviously, with no Geno Smith, it could be Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's not going to possibly get his revenge, is he? As for the Eagles, this is a very murky situation. You have to win this game. I didn't think it would be a obvious situation by now, but yeah, you have to win this game. If you don't, I am very concerned for, well, everybody in the Delaware Valley because it's not good to have all this emotional pain through the holiday season. Although, if it means the Phillies made an impactful move on the Monday after or the Saturday before, would we in the Delaware Valley be okay with taking that trade off? With the Eagles losing in exchange for the Phillies getting better? I personally would be okay with it. But that's just me. Being at the Birmingham, Alabama Monkey's Paw or Fork in the Road here, I think is going to be Julian Sain. I think Sain will be potentially, eventually, a really good quarterback in the NFL. And the fact that he's this good year one is saying a lot. I think he will be special eventually, just not yet. It's still the team of Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith, but I do think Sain's going to be really good. Let's start with the tier now. Atlanta escalated slowly. Now, the first half, Atlanta actually kept up with Seattle. They put up a respectable fight. They were causing mistakes and turnovers against Sam Darnold because that's generally how you beat them. It's to force Darnold to be New York Jet Darnold. And then the second half started with the return of Rashid Shaheed. And from then on, it was all Seattle. And from then on, Atlanta stood zero shot. And it was pretty obvious from rip because Kirk Cousins made several mistakes and turnovers. Bijan Robinson also fumbled. It was not a great half for the Falcons at all. Their disastrous season continues to get more and more painful as they were mercifully eliminated from the playoffs. I would argue that the Dolphins game, considering how bad the Dolphins were going into that game, was the game that started their demise. And they have looked awful ever since. This season needs to end horribly for Atlanta. And unfortunately for the Falcons, The Rams have that first round pick, and right now it's ninth. That could be really bad for everyone else, considering how good the Rams have been at drafting lately. Cincinnati, season-ending collapse. Sure, they could technically still win the AFC North, but they would need a Christmas miracle for that to happen. I just don't see that. And because of this devastating loss to the Bills, where they had every reason to win this game and somehow failed to, their season is effectively done. And it's a shame because Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase all played respectably well, especially Higgins, who was spectacular against the Bills. And it shouldn't have gone down this way. But in part, it's because of some bad luck and some bad decisions by Burrow, which is why it went down this way. That's as devastating of a loss as it can get, and probably the coup de grace for the Cincinnati season. Please draft people that can play defense. That would be generally good. Minnesota. Sure, why not? Why not go shut out the Commanders a week after getting shut out by Seattle? So you get shut out by one team that plays their games in Washington, and you shut out a team that plays their games just south of Washington. Or just north of Washington, I should say. Just north of Washington. The point of it is, this Viking season is a mix of, this is really bad, with somehow you have some redeeming qualities, like Jalen Naylor, who has turned himself into a pretty good number 3 receiver. Sure, you need a younger running back to take the place of Aaron Jones, understood. You need to figure out what you're doing with Justin Jefferson, because for some reason he's doing absolutely nothing, no matter who the quarterback is in Minnesota. That's kind of got to change, and change fast, for the Vikings to do anything productive going forward. Could that change be J.J. McCarthy? Or would that change be getting a king's ransom for maybe the most talented receiver in football? Kansas City, very doomed. They had to win last week. They had to beat a really good Texan defense. I get it, their offense doesn't exist, aside from Nico Collins. And they had to do so to save their season, relatively speaking. And for the most part, it seems like they did not, and they failed horribly. And with this failure, I think Kansas City is basically done when it comes to the playoffs. They're going to need some things to go their way, and go their way fast, in order for the Chiefs to make it back. If they don't, okay, Kansas City's going to draft relatively high and scare relatively everyone. If they do, then they're probably going to potentially make a run and scare relatively everyone. Because by then, one would like to think some of their offensive linemen will actually be back. And their receivers can actually catch the football. That would actually be kind of important. Baltimore, couldn't help it. Okay, I get it now. The Ravens slowly and surely are going to take out whatever faith that we all had in the Ravens and say, you had too much faith in us. Yet again, the Ravens find a way to not come through when you absolutely had to. They make way too many mistakes. And sure, they didn't get the benefit of some calls, but Baltimore finding a way to run for over 200 yards against the Steelers and not win is got to be frustrating. And for the Ravens to be able to do all this, and clearly Lamar is not him. Lamar is not himself this year. For all this to go down the way it did is really, really bad and really, really unfortunate. I think the Ravens still have a shot, sure, but they almost have to win out, and they almost have to see Pittsburgh kind of crumble a little bit, and for them to make the playoffs. Because honestly, can the Ravens win out? Sure, but I'm not sure we really trust them to at this moment in time. Speaking of the Steelers, they're next. Survive and advance. That's what it felt like Pittsburgh did. That's what it felt like Pittsburgh did here. Yes, the calls I mentioned before, but that's really what happened with the Steelers. They actually got a deep shot to DK Metcalf, who apparently now has the flu, which is rather unfortunate. I would like to think he'll play on Monday, but if he doesn't, that's very concerning for a receiving core that simply doesn't do anything productive outside of Metcalf. They didn't run the ball well at all, which was a little disappointing considering what the Ravens have done this year. And instead, they were able to force some turnovers and basically stay sturdy and strong when needed the most. Now, granted, Baltimore made their mistakes, but Pittsburgh still had to stay strong and make sure that nothing happened here. They did. That deserves some credit. Now, are the Steelers destined for another 9-8 season? Yeah, probably. Simply they go 2-1 to end the season, and they 2-2 to go to end the season, and they got it. Do we trust the Steelers to do anything better than such a thing? We will see. Their next opponent is Miami. Noticeable change. The Dolphins are becoming a little bit less of the finesse team that they've been over the years, and instead are becoming a little bit more of the physical team week by week, day by day, snap by snap. They are running the ball outstandingly well over the last month. They've run for almost 200 yards a game in the last month. They've been that great. Achane and Wright and Gordon have all played well. The defense is playing much better. They're stopping the run more efficiently. They're causing some more turnovers. They're not making anywhere near as many mistakes as they did in September and October, and are just looking so much better. Could the schedule be part of it? Sure, but they did destroy the Bills. That has to count for something, and they will be tested. I will get to their game in a sec with the Steelers. But before that, I got to talk about the Colts. Season ended instantly. Daniel Jones was already on borrowed time, I would say, with a broken fibula, and in theory, he probably should have just had the surgery and chalked it. But I will give Daniel Jones credit. He's tough. He decided, you know what, I'm going to go for it and try to play anyway. And just a freak accident, that's what torn Achilles injuries have effectively become. And we all knew it right away once we saw it. It was like, oh, this is over. This is done. Unfortunately for Jones, it was the opposite leg. So now he's got to have 2 different surgeries on both of his legs. Yikes, that's not great. So what now? He probably misses a year, maybe the entire 26th season, considering how late this was. That is absolutely devastating for a guy who was in a contract year. Sure, he'll probably be financially okay, but in terms of a career, now he's probably going to burn a year of it. What now? What happens here? As for the Colts, Riley Leonard looked meh, but he may not play this week. That's concerning. Old Man Rivers is back, but even then, he's probably not going to be ready to go for a week, maybe even 2. We don't know this. Anthony Richardson will even come back at all. Do the Colts even want him back? We don't know. They're in such a bind and such a pickle. It's going to be hard for Indianapolis to get out of this. And to be honest, with their schedule left, I think they're kind of cooked, regardless of who the quarterback is. It's a shame because they were 7-1 and they were looking like the AFC's best team. And then everything kind of went completely south and fast. Let's get to the games in this tier, though. Baltimore, gotta have it. Cincinnati, gotta have it. It's an elimination game if Cincinnati loses, and then their season is done. They don't have Trey Hendrickson, but Baltimore has really proven that their faith should not be restored in them, at least until they prove otherwise. They just met a couple weeks ago, and this was a bludgeoning by the Bengals, in part because the Ravens gave them the tools to bludgeon. And all those turnovers and all those mistakes that Baltimore made really caught up to them in this game. What about in this game in Cincinnati? Can this history repeat itself? And where's Cincinnati's heads at after blowing the double-digit lead in Buffalo? They had the game won, and then Joe Burrow self-destructed, not the defense. Yeah, they gave up 39 points. Well, 32 the defense did. But I won't blame the defense for that loss. I think that's on Burrow for the mistakes that he made. This is a monster game, and a game that Baltimore's got to have to keep up with the Steelers. They host the Dolphins. Monday Night Football in a freezer. Well, close to it. It's not quite Kansas City cold. But the point of it is, this is a big game for both of these teams. For Pittsburgh's sake, obviously, to keep up with Baltimore. And Miami's sake, they have to win out, basically, to have any shot at the playoffs. But the way Miami has played, they could absolutely do this. But this is the test that Miami has not passed over the years in the McDaniel era. Can they win in cold weather games against respectable teams? Sure, they won a cold weather game last week against the Jets. But the Jets are bad. There's a reason why they're in zombie tier. Pittsburgh is not. Pittsburgh is at least decent. And it would really settle a lot of family business. Cold weather game, check. Good team, check. Team over 500 on the road, check. And Miami's kind of got the advantage, at least in this regard. The Steelers' run defense has been bad lately. Miami's rushing attack, as I just mentioned, has been outstanding lately. This and the turnover situation are the 2 big keys to me. If Miami can run the ball against Pittsburgh, I think the Steelers are in real trouble. If Miami can avoid the turnovers against the Steelers, they're in real trouble, Pittsburgh is. Can Miami also get to Aaron Rodgers? Another interesting key that I'm most looking forward to seeing. And can the Steelers offense do something, anything, to get the ball downfield? Big game on Monday night. We'll see what happens. Let's get to Diego Papia and the Wilmington, Delaware playoff tier. I think Papia has had a tremendous year, but I have to put him second for the Heisman Trophy this year. At least that's how I would vote it. Tampa Bay. Mike Evans return? He's apparently practicing, and I would imagine he's on his way back soon. Maybe not this week, but he's on his way back soon. Tampa Bay needs anything to go right because of the way they lost to the Saints and how sluggish and sloppy they seem to look against New Orleans. Not a good look there. Though at least this doesn't hurt them in terms of winning the NFC South. They still got some family business to deal with first, but in that situation, but this was not a good win. And it's now becoming increasingly obvious that either Tampa Bay or Carolina is your 4 seed. Choose what you want to do wisely, Tampa Bay. And if Mike Evans comes back, that would be quite nice. Dallas. Pickens crashing out. Maybe this meal was slow to cook, and now we're finally getting to it. The oven may start to go off, and George Pickens may start to crash out. With the injury to CeeDee Lamb, the concussion here, Pickens obviously becomes wide receiver 1 once again, and undisputedly so. Last week, he didn't look all that great in Detroit. If Lamb has to miss more time, then we'll see what Pickens looks like when we know he needs to get the ball, and we know that Dallas needs all the wins they can get. They're probably done for the wildcard stuff, but they're definitely not done when it comes to the divisional stuff as long as the Eagles keep losing and self-destructing. Speaking of the Eagles, they're next. 2023 arc. Some of you may remember how the Eagles season ended. They went 10-1. Nick Sirianni chirped at Chiefs fans. He chirped at his own fans after getting a haircut that made us think he had a midlife crisis. And the Eagles season ended like this. It ended at the start of December of 2023 when the Niners took their soul. The next week, they got pummeled again, this time by the Cowboys. The week after that, they faced Drew Lock, and this is when Geno Smith was good still in Seattle, and Drew Lock was able to steal a game from them, and it ended with a Jalen Hurts in-0. Now, fast forward to what's happening recently with the Eagles this year, where you got your soul-stealing game, that was Chicago, it happened second this time. You got your loss at the late stages of the season in Dallas, that totally happened. You got your third game on the West Coast being a Monday Night Football game, and it ended with an 0. That absolutely happened here. It totally happened here. And now we have this game coming up with the Raiders, like I mentioned previously. How the 23 season ended after those 3 losses I mentioned, they went 2 out of 3 in terms of L's to 2 bad teams. The Eagles have their next 3 games against the Commanders twice and the Raiders. They also have the Bills thrown in there as well. So actually, that's the way their schedule ends. Commanders twice and the Raiders are amongst 3 of their last 4 games. Surely the Eagles aren't going to lose 2 of 3 of these games, are they? Because if they do, the Cowboys could absolutely steal the NFC East. They just need 2 losses, Dallas does, and for the Cowboys to win out, and the East is theirs. And if that were to happen, the Eagles probably don't make the playoffs. 10-6-1 can get the Cowboys in. And for the Eagles, just win 3 games. You'll be all right. The Buffalo game doesn't even matter as long as you win the other 3 and handle the business you're expected to. Carolina, which version? I ask this out of curiosity because Carolina has been the true definition of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde this year. We don't know what Panther team we're going to get with Bryce Young. We kind of know without him, but we don't know what team we're getting with him. Are you the Panther team that a couple of weeks ago beat the LA Rams, St. Louis, the Los Angeles Rams, when we thought, okay, the Rams are the best team in the league? Or are you the Panthers that somehow lost to the Saints the way they did, where they looked miserable for a lot of that game? Which Carolina team are you? We're going to need an answer, and we're going to need it quick, because you play the Saints again, and you have to settle some family business before you go try to handle some business against Tampa Bay. I need to know, Carolina, which version are you? LA Chargers, first test passed. Justin Herbert's broken hand did not help him on Monday night. His offensive line also did not help him on Monday night as he took a horrible beating from the Eagles. Kansas City's got a similar situation going on with the whole defensive line can get home because Chris Jones is like that. And that could be a potential problem on Sunday as well. One of which that the Chargers had to solve to keep up with the Broncos. If they aren't able to solve it, then Kansas City might still have a little bit more hope than they did previously. The Chargers did look pretty good otherwise when it came to the defense taking the ball from Jalen Hurts. But one could argue that some of that was a lot of Jalen Hurts being miserable. a lot to work with for the Chargers. So they have a lot to work on if they're able to make a run in the playoffs and or catch the Broncos for a divisional win and home game. Jacksonville, the streak lives. Once again, they face the Colts at home. Once again, the Colts go back north with an L. That's quite impressive by Jacksonville to keep this going. Is Jacksonville good? Not quite sure. Because Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good player, I guess, but he makes way too many mistakes. I like Josh Hines Allen, obviously. I like Travis Etienne, obviously. I trust those guys. The other 51 guys that you normally would see, I don't trust them as much. I don't know what I'm getting from them, except for maybe Brenton Strange, who's been really good so far and lately. Brian Thomas catching a pass also helps, but I just need more consistency from them. I think they'll be tested eventually. They do have a game with the Broncos later on this month, but I just need to see Jacksonville show their mettle a little bit more consistently. Buffalo, Super Josh arrives from one Josh Allen to the other, and this one is the MVP, and he played like it when he absolutely had to. Now, granted, he got some help from the defense, no question. But Josh Allen had to be this version of Josh Allen to beat Joe Burrow. And he was able to. Buffalo can continue to survive here. And I don't know if they're going to catch New England. I don't think they do, but we will see. They give themselves a little bit of a chance after this win. I will get to Buffalo versus New England in a little bit. And Houston. Defense and Collins. That's effectively what's carrying you here. Your defense is the best in football. They are relentless in getting home. They're relentless in hitting you if you, for some reason, catch the ball. They're also relentless in taking the ball from you because they have the best cornerback duo in the NFL, and Stingley and Lassiter. Both got in those last week. And Jalen Petrie was hitting everything that moved. He was a heat-seeking missile. And then if for some reason you don't throw the football, Will Anderson and Edward and Neil Hunter are probably your reasons why. The Texans are nasty. If they get anything from the offense aside from Nico Collins, Houston could actually make some noise in the playoffs. I just don't trust their offense enough to do that. Well, depending on the opponent they play in the wildcard round in the event that they get there. Let's talk about the games of interest in this tier, though. Chargers, Chiefs, gotta have a game for Kansas City. It's pretty much done if they don't get it. It's pretty much done if they don't win this game and beat a team that already beat them earlier this year. Justin Herbert has taken a horrible beating so far, and I'm sure Chris Jones wants to add to the beating that he has taken. Can Kansas City do such a thing? Can their offensive line get any healthier? Because if they don't, that's concerning. Khalil Mack will probably want to reintroduce himself to Pat Mahomes, but this time in a Charger uniform. And this game could be seismic for both these squads. In the case of the Chargers, them winning this game all but eliminates Kansas City or puts them in such a bind it's going to be hard to catch up with. And allows them to keep up once again with Denver, where in the case of the Chargers, they just need a loss. They just need a loss somewhere, anywhere from Denver's opponent so that Week 18 showdown in Denver is for the division. They just need one. That's all they need. And then there's Bills-Patriots. Now, we saw Buffalo lose to New England earlier this year, and I would argue that New England kind of arrived that night and said, okay, New England is actually not to be trifled with. Now, sure, I think the Patriots are schedule merchants. I think they're only 11-2 because of their schedule being so weak. But they do get credit for this win they had on the road. Now that Buffalo can see them coming, can they repeat the feat? Can Josh Allen continue to be Superman when he absolutely has to? Now that the Patriots have had an extra week off, can they prepare properly for Josh Allen and James Cook, who's had some fumbleitis lately? That's been a little concerning. This is a monster game in the AFC East and a game that can pretty much decide the AFC East. Because if New England wins, that's probably a wrap. Y'all can pretty much give the t-shirts to everyone in Foxborough, the hats too, to everyone in Foxborough at that point, because Buffalo's not catching them if they were to lose this game. And now let's get to the Fernando Mendoza New York City title tier, where I think he could actually be playing his games in New York City. If he's playing for the Jets, I do feel bad for him. Anyway, let's talk about it. Detroit, a devastating injury. Now, the Lions were able to win last week thanks in part to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. Sure, David Montgomery chipped in. Absolutely he did. But the devastating injury wasn't Amon-Ra, who came into the game and we didn't think he'd play, but he played well. It's Brian Branch. And the fact that Brian Branch tore his Achilles and now he's out for the year is a potentially backbreaking situation for the Lions secondary, considering Terrion Arnold's not in it right now due to his injury. This is a devastating loss for Detroit in that realm. A team that absolutely has to win as many games, all of them, as quickly and as efficiently as possible to keep up with the other heavies in the NFC. Lions got to have it, and they're in a got-to-have-it game I will talk about momentarily. But first, I got to talk about the other 7 teams in this tier. San Francisco, any healthier? You had a bye. I'm not sure anyone got hurt during the bye. Maybe feelings got hurt from Brandon Ayuk. But no one physically got hurt as far as I can tell. And I need to know the question. And the answer to it anyway. Are you healthy? Any healthier at all? We need to know. Because if you are, maybe the Niners can make a run. Because they're so well coached. And the roster, though not as weak as its peak of powers, or not strong as its peak of powers, is still at least relatively decent. I do need a little bit more pass rushing, I guess, but maybe I'm nitpicking. Chicago, 1st to 7th. That was the punishment that Chicago had to suffer through after losing a heartbreaking game to Green Bay. They played really well, they did. Green Bay came out swinging in the first half, but Chicago, to their credit, came back swinging in the second. And unfortunately for the Bears, it was one ill-timed mistake by Caleb Williams that was the straw to break the camel's back. Chicago ultimately should be fine, and obviously next Sunday they're going to have a free shot at the Bears. I will talk about that game next week. And they're going to have to win that game to have any shot, I would say, at the NFC North. Can they do that? And if not, then, well, it's fun while it lasted being the number 1 seed. Let's see if you can make the playoffs even if you lose this or next week. To the Packers. Great Christian Watson. Hey, Christian Watson has had his moments. He's had his struggles. He's had lack of hands at different times. He's backflipped a few times. But Watson having an incredibly dominant game was something that we really haven't seen too much of in his NFL career. He was incredible on Sunday. There was nothing that the Packers had for him. Jordan Love making fadeaway throws like he's Dirk or something. Was able to get the ball to him and or Bo Melton. It was quality stuff there. And the Packer defense, just when you needed them most, showed up the best. And they showed up and showed out properly. Getting the game sealing in was Keyshawn Nixon. He does commit a lot of penalties, though. Anyway, the Packers move, and they move from 7th to 2nd. And just need a little bit of help, and they may be number 1. Which may be bad for a team that has to go to Lambeau for the divisional round if that were to happen. New England, a legit opponent. You're going to see one in Buffalo. I will talk about that in a little bit. In the case of the Patriots, they were off, so they had a free week to prepare and a free week to get somewhat healthier. Can they show their mettle against a Buffalo team that's going to be fighting for the playoff lives every step of the way? And for that matter, fighting to have a shot at getting back to the division. They'll need some Patriot losses along the way, but it's not impossible. I think we'll say that. For the Patriots, let's see if you can keep this going against a good team. LA Rams, free win. That's effectively what this was here. There's not much else to say other than everybody you expected to dominate did the dominating, except for maybe Devontae Adams. Other than that, this was a beatdown by the Rams, and the Rams inch ever so close to the NFC West. They will certainly be tested. They have a schedule that's not quite nice to them down the stretch. What are the Rams going to do with it? I guess we'll see. Seattle played with food. That's kind of what the first half felt like to me. And they were a little sluggish. They struggled a bit. But ultimately, they got their act together. And they were able to finish the deal and finish it strong. Good work on Seattle's part. Again, they're going to have a test with the Rams coming up. But in the meantime, between time, as long as Seattle doesn't go completely crazy, they should be good to go. Good win for the Seahawks. Just don't turn over the ball too much. And Denver, the 1 seed. You're in control of it. All you have to do is win out, and you get it. Unfortunately, you don't play New England yet, but you'll at least for this latter stretch of the year, Denver will be tested somewhat as well. I will talk about their game momentarily. They also have a game with the Jaguars amongst this group, and that Charger game could be for the AFC West if the right bounces happen for LA. For Denver, let's see if they've learned anything about getting the ball to where it needs to get to with Bo Nix, and if they can run the ball consistently without J.K. Dobbins there. RJ Harvey's done a good job. We just need to see if he can continue to keep up this pace that he's been on. And with that, let's get to the games of interest in this tier. Colts, Seahawks. I feel so bad for Riley Leonard or whoever the Colts quarterback is going to be. This is going to get ugly. You're telling me, as good as the Indianapolis offensive line is, the Seattle defense is ruthless and relentless, and they're going to come for whoever the quarterback is in Indianapolis with everything they've got. I don't love his chances. I like them a little bit better if Jonathan Taylor continues to run the football like he does, because that would be quite nice. I'd like him a little better than that if Seattle doesn't force turnovers. This is a vital game for a Colts team that needs it, and for a Seattle team that absolutely wants to keep up with the Rams and keep the Niners away. And of course, the main event. It's GPS Bowl 2, if you will. If you watch Tom Grassi and Brandon Perna do the thing. It's Packers, it's Broncos. It's a showdown in the main event between the AFC's 1 seed and the NFC's 2 seed. A monster game for both these squads to keep home field advantage away from the other, or home field advantage away from the ops that are in their conferences. A vital game where Jordan Love and all those Packer receivers are going to be matched up against that crazy heavyweight Denver defense. PS2 being back is very vital. I'm guessing he'll be on Christian Watson a lot, but he could also take some time on Bo Melton, or Dontavian Wicks, and or Romeo Doubs. A crazy good game, a monster game late in this year. I think it's going to be a fun game. Ideally, it's more fun than the last one they had, where Denver won by 2, because we'll love it at the end. But I'm most looking forward to this game and how fun this could be between 2 true playoff contenders and 2 teams that want to make a run in said playoffs. And there you have it. That's this week's Power Rankings. As always, the Sports Lounge page will be the home for all my picks. I will make the picks later today. And when it comes to the Railway recaps, you already know the drill by now. Falcons and Bucks are going to be the first stop of my next train of thought.